Hello, my name is Andy and I am the Village Idiot. I'm armed with a car and a GoPro and an unhealthy amount of time on my hands. I'm using that time to attempt to visit every civil parish in England. You're watching the Trafford series. Trafford is one of the 10 districts of Greater Manchester and it only has 4 parishes. Let's dive in and see which one we're in today. Hello folks, Happy New Year. It is 2024 now and here begins another year of TVI, and it's a brand new year, and to go with the brand new year we've also got a brand new district in a brand new county. Welcome for the first time to Greater Manchester, and today I'm going to be tackling one of its 10 districts in its entirety. 4 episodes beginning right here in this parish here. This one's very industrial and it's got a few connections to a few sporting things as well, including the training ground of Manchester United. This is Trafford and welcome to the parish of Carrington. Here's my disclaimer for people who may be watching me for the first time. I say things as I would in my native accent and dialect. As a result, I may not pronounce things in the same way as the locals do. Remember, I'm a visitor. It's impossible to know everything. Leave me a comment, spin me a like and bash that subscribe button. Let's get to today's parish video. Carrington, River Bend Settlement. For the first time on TVI, we're in Manchester. Welcome to Trafford and the parish of Carrington. Located to the southwest of the city centre on the banks of the River Mersey, Carrington was historically once part of Cheshire until administrative boundaries were redrawn in the 1970s. Its name refers to a bend in the Mersey, although it could also mean Cara's estate. It's not 100% defined. Carrington is a typical ribbon settlement, stretching for well over 2 miles, primarily along one road. It has for many years been one of the most industrialised parts of Manchester. Along with brand new developments, scars of former industry are very apparent here. This was once the site of a massive chemical works owned by Shell, which produced polythene and polystyrene. On the bank of the Mersey is Carrington Power Station, which has been operational since 2016. It replaced an old one demolished using explosives in 1991. In amongst all the industry, there are dwellings, although not many at present, but that will soon be different. The Shell site is now derelict, but could soon be redeveloped to provide new homes. And Carrington is heavily associated with sport. For many years, Manchester United have trained right here. Let's check it out. Let's get the sports connections out of the way first. Carrington has at least 3 training grounds, all associated with well-known national sports teams. The most familiar to many is the Trafford Training Centre, where Manchester United have trained since the year 2000. They moved to the site from the Cliff in Salford after then-manager Sir Alex Ferguson deemed it to be inadequate for the Premier League. It can be found at the end of Isherwood Road, and of course, it's very much private property, so the main walk won't pass it. Carrington also has other sports grounds though. On the road east towards the M60 is the Carrington Training Centre, which was formerly used by Manchester City until 2015, when they moved out and leased it to Bury. It's built on Carrington Moss, a large area of peat bog which was reclaimed for farming. Rugby club Sale Sharks also train on Carrington Moss, and EFL League 2 side Stockport County currently use their facilities until a brand new training centre is built in Stockport itself. We start on Stamford Road at the western end of Carrington. This is named after the Stamford estate, which this village was once part of. We'll talk more about it as we walk. This is Manchester Road, the A6144 upon which the village stands. It's a ribbon settlement stretching for around 2 miles boundary to boundary. It's served by 3 buses to Manchester, the numbers 247, 253, 255 and also one to Altrincham and Warrington called the Cheshire Cat 5. Behind that stop is a business, Harcon, who manufacture fall protection equipment designed for working at great heights. A few paces east brings us to Trafford Vets. Although there are businesses along Manchester Road, the majority of the property in this central area is residential, and it's a mixture of both the old and the new when it comes to housing. There's been residents in Carrington Village for several centuries. It was a village originally built for the farm labourers who worked on the surrounding farms and the Stamford estate. It's easy to see what's been here the longest. Some of the original architecture has survived, but as it's grown, housing here has dramatically improved. Our next landmark is a chapel. This was built in 1875 and was originally used by the Primitive Methodists. Aside from the Church of St George, which we'll see later, this is the only religious building Carrington Village is ever known to have had. It's now an office used by Corner House, a company which have more than 35 years experience with all things to do with the print industry, including photographs. Directly opposite the old chapel is School Lane. I assume this is where the original village school was located, but later we'll see where else a school was once sited. Carrington's pub next, the Windmill Inn. This is a Sam Smith's brewery pub, thought to date back to the 18th century, when it was a series of cottages. Over the years it's been extended to give the feel of a traditional multi-room pub. It's still very much a locals pub and draws a lot of trade from nearby Partington. After the pub, the road becomes a little empty for a few moments, aside from one landmark in particular on the left-hand side. Although there are lots of sports facilities here, Carrington has no playing field these days. This was it, but as you can see, it's now disused. Next up is the Linco Care Factory. Since 1979, these guys have made sun and skincare products, and I'm willing to bet that some of you have used them in the past. They're the parent company of brands such as Calypso, Silkia, Cabana Sun, Dimples and Regen, amongst others, all of which can be found in major UK supermarkets. Beyond the factory, Manchester Road begins to run off towards the M60 at junction 7, but not before it's crossed the B5158 just before the Sale Sharks training ground, which runs north over the Mersey and into Flixton. It's a busy old crossroads, this. Now we've turned down a side street called Ackers Lane. Despite having no playing field, this does feature a small play area for Carrington's little ones. There's a similar green at Stamford Road. This is perhaps the quietest part of the village because it's not on the main road. Some residents have complained in the past about the amount of traffic in Carrington and the effect it has. Because of its industrial nature, this is a village that sees lots of lorries, and houses on Manchester Road have been known to shake when they pass. Down here though, that's much less of a problem. The same can also be said for the street that runs parallel, Isherwood Road, where Manchester United training ground is located, along with Carrington Riding Centre. This road has several new build cul-de-sacs along it, like Inglenut Close and Cypress Gardens, and soon even more new homes will be built here. To alleviate the traffic issue, a brand new relief road is also planned, which will cut through Carrington Moss, which will take some vehicles away from Manchester Road. Here's Carding Place, currently the newest of the new builds in Carrington Village. At the end of the road we come to the entrance of a huge industrial area. Known by various names including the Isherwood Estate, Carrington Business Park and the Carrington Moss Estate, this is still in use today by several companies including haulage firms, corporate offices and even a taxi service. Most of the site though is strictly off limits to the public and there are stacks of security cameras. This was the site of a vast refinery which produced polythene and polystyrene, run by petrochemical giant Shell UK. It covered 311 acres and Shell still own a further 433 acres of land which is agricultural. At its peak in the years immediately after World War II, employment levels in Carrington were sky high. Shell were just one of a number of major multinational companies that took advantage of the flat, open ground of Carrington Moss. The Shell Chemical Works employed upwards of 3,500 people in its heyday. The facility closed in 2007, leaving this barren, open wasteland in its wake. 2 operational chemical production facilities remained though until 2009, operated by Basel. The site was bisected by a railway line at one time too, which crossed the Manchester Ship Canal close to the Mersey. Although it looks a bit of an eyesore now, the future is bright for the former Shell plant. There are now plans to redevelop the site. Dubbed New Carrington by developers, this soon could be the location of up to 11,500 brand new homes and 750,000 square metres of employment floor space. On the edge of the Shell plant you'll find another sports club. This is Carrington Rugby Club. Known as the Pigs, they were founded in 1957 as the rugby team associated with Shell. Due to a no alcohol ruling on Shell property, the Windmill Inn is their spiritual home. Now, as well as the former Shell plant, which I've tried to cover as best as I can, not much I can do with it being private property, there's also something else industrial here, and this is much more relevant to today, the here and now, and that would be Carrington Power Station. Let's go and have a look at that. Power generation has been a thing in the village since 1956, when the original Carrington Power Station was completed on the southern bank of the River Mersey. Crazily though, it was back in 1916 when land for its construction was acquired. That's the effect the world wars had. The original station was decommissioned in the late 1980s and was blown up in 1991. All that remains now is this 400 kilovolt switching station. However, there is now a brand new plant behind this, responsible for the plumes of steam you can see in the sky. It's a combined cycle gas turbine power station built on the site of the old one and only occupies roughly half the space as its predecessor. It was completed in 2016 and generates up to 880 megawatts of electricity, enough to supply approximately 1 million homes. When being built, some parts for it were so large they had to be transported to the site via the Manchester Ship Canal. A word to the wise, don't try and use this footpath to see the power station or the switching station or anything like that. It's very difficult to walk down, very overgrown, as you can see. I've got to trudge back through that as well to get back to the start point because there's no way of getting out up there. I thought there was initially, which is why I came up here, but not a problem, not a problem. We'll make our way back and we'll be safe and sound in a few moments time. There's one more thing I want to cover here in Carrington, and that's the church, which actually isn't in the main village cluster. It's on the road towards Partington, so we'll go and see that to finish. Located away from the main village is Carrington's church, dedicated to St George. It's a redundant building though, and is looked after by the church's Conservation Trust. St George's stands in a relatively isolated position along the northern edge of the Carrington Moss industrial estate. It was built by Isaac Shaw between 1757 and 1759 for Mary, Countess of Stamford. It was a chapel of ease, built to serve Partington and Carrington, which at the time were nothing more than hamlets. Nowadays, Carrington's main religious building is shared with Partington, St Mary's Church. The Vicar of St Mary's is still responsible for this churchyard. Clearance work here in 2008 uncovered the graves of 2 World War I soldiers. They're now registered by the Commonwealth War Graves Commission. Standing in front of the church is another building of note. This is an old schoolhouse. Despite my best efforts to find a date for this building, they fell short. Mind you, this has now been given a new lease of life by Galloway Construction. A civil engineering company established in 2002, they are fervently passionate about spearheading change in the modern construction industry. And with that, we are done with parish number 1 here in Trafford. That was a good way to kick off the new year, wasn't it? There are 3 more to go in this part of Manchester. Next week we'll be seeing the second. Join me for a place with lots of schools, a paper mill, an old railway line, and allegedly the most deprived area in Manchester. Thanks for watching this video, folks. Don't forget to like this episode if you haven't already. It really makes a difference with YouTube. If you're new here, subscribe to the channel for more videos like this, and give us a share too if you've got friends who'd like it. You can find all the links to my social media accounts below, as well as my Buy Me a Coffee page where you can donate to the channel. Also, if you've enjoyed this episode, have a look at some more videos in this series. Until next time, I've been Andy, also known as the Village Idiot, and I'm out.